Why do good people suffer? It's a huge question, right? One of the oldest ones we've got. Well, the ancient story of Job offers a really surprising answer, and it starts not here on earth, but way up in the heavens.
So the story kicks off with just about the highest praise you could imagine, and it's coming from God himself. We're told Job is the real deal, blameless, upright, a genuinely good person. I mean, he is the last person on earth you'd expect to suffer.
And yet, that's exactly what happens. His entire world just completely implodes. In a series of horrible events, he loses his family, his wealth, his health, everything. To figure out why, we actually have to go behind the scenes and listen in on a cosmic conversation that sealed his fate.
Okay, so let's get into our first section. We're looking at a righteous man's test and really the behind-the-scenes story of his unimaginable suffering. What we find isn't just random bad luck, but something more like a planned experiment.
And here's the absolute key. Job's suffering had nothing to do with him. He didn't do anything wrong. It all started with a conversation between God and a figure in the heavens known as the accuser, or Satan.
And this is the core of the challenge. The accuser basically says, look, Job isn't good because he loves you. He's good because you've made him rich and successful. It's a business deal. He claims if you take away all the blessings, Job's faith will instantly turn into curses.
So God allows the test to happen, and Job loses absolutely everything. And right away, that should tell you, wow, the stakes here are way higher than just one man's faith. A huge universal principle is being put to the test, and Job is unknowingly the star witness.
So what starts as a personal test for Job just explodes into something much, much bigger. It becomes a cosmic accusation. We're not just talking about one man anymore. A universal law is now on trial for everyone to see.
You have to understand, Job is basically Exhibit A in a massive cosmic court case. The accuser isn't really that interested in Job personally. No, he's using Job to make a giant sweeping claim about all of God's creatures and the very law they're supposed to live by.
And here is the accuser's logic, and it's devastatingly simple. First, he argues that all worship is selfish. We're only good because we get good things out of it. Second, he says that's because our real motivation deep down isn't love. It's just unlimited, selfish desire. Which leads him to his big conclusion. If that's true, then God's command to love is an unfair rule that's impossible for anyone to actually follow.
And there it is. That's the end game. The real goal is to get God's most fundamental law, the law of love, thrown out. If he can prove that law is unjust, then God's right to rule just crumbles. This isn't just a disagreement. It's an attempt to overthrow the government of the universe.
So to really get how God responds to this, we need to zoom way, way out. Because this whole fight, believe it or not, is basically baked into the very fabric of creation itself. It's all about this deep conflict between desire, will, and law.
So check out how creation is set up. God gives creatures free will. Then he gives them basically unlimited desire. But, and this is a huge but, he puts them in a finite world with limited resources. You can want everything, but you can't have everything. You see the problem? This built-in tension forces every single one of us to make a choice.
And this is where we see the two paths that split off from that choice. On one side, you've got the way of the law. You learn to control your desire, you trust God, you're content, and you care for others. On the other side, the way of desire. Forget God's will, just chase your own cravings, and if your neighbor has something you want, you take it. And this is where the accusation gets really, really heavy. Because if the accuser is right, if God's law of love is truly impossible to follow, then what does that make God? Is he a liar for commanding it? Is he a murderer for punishing creatures who inevitably fail to keep it? The whole character of God is on trial.
So, the billion-dollar question. How does God answer this? He can't just snap his fingers and end it. The challenge has to be met head-on, publicly. This is God's ultimate answer, and it's not a command from a throne, it's a live demonstration.
I mean, think about it. If God just zapped the accuser out of existence, what would all the other angels think? They'd probably think, whoa, maybe the accuser was right, and God is just silencing anyone who disagrees. Then they'd start obeying out of pure fear, which would actually prove the accuser's point that all service is selfish.
So instead of using brute force, God sets up this incredible two-part plan. The entire goal is to prove, out in the open for the whole universe to see, that his law of love is just, and that his creatures can freely choose it over selfishness, even when it hurts.
Okay, step one, quarantine the problem.
The rebellion is contained. The source tells us that the accuser and his followers were confined to a specific domain. You see all the different names for it here. This wasn't about punishment just yet. It was about preventing an all-out cosmic civil war while the legal case played out.
Now, with the rebellion contained, it was time for step 2. A brand new stage had to be built, with a new kind of key player, all designed to demonstrate the truth in a way no one could deny.
And that new stage? Well, it's Earth. And the new key player? That's us, humanity, starting with Adam. The whole purpose of our existence within this cosmic drama is to be the living proof, to show, using our own free will, that a creature can choose to love and obey God even with all the internal pulls of selfish desire. So the big takeaway here is that God's response to this ultimate accusation wasn't a power move, it was a living, breathing demonstration. In our entire human history, all the good, all the bad, all the tragedy and triumph becomes the very courtroom where the justice of God's law is being publicly decided.
And that just brings this massive, cosmic trial right down to our level, doesn't it? The story of Job isn't just some dusty, ancient tale. It's a mirror. It suggests that the same fundamental choice, the choice between a higher law of love and our own unlimited desires, is the choice that's put before each of us every single day. The trial, you could say, continues.